Hello, everybody. So let's continue talking about operant conditioning. And now I want to talk about schedules of reinforcement. Now, so far, we have talked about a continuous schedule of reinforcement. And a continuous schedule of reinforcement is when you reinforce every correct behavior. So let's take me teaching my cat to sit. Every time my cat sat on command, whenever I said sit, I would give the cat a treat. You should use a continuous schedule of reinforcement to establish the goal behavior. Animals and sometimes people don't know what you want them to do. So if you use a continuous schedule of reinforcement, you reinforce every time they do that behavior, then they learn fairly quickly, oh, this is what you want me to do because I get something good whenever I do this. There are problems with a continuous schedule of reinforcement, however. One problem is you may run out of resources. I might run out of treats if I give my cat a treat every time he sits. Or I may run out of money to buy treats because sometimes treats can be expensive. But an even bigger problem with a continuous schedule of reinforcement is that it is the easiest to extinguish. Animals and people learn pretty quickly that I'm doing a lot of work for nothing, so I'm not going to do it anymore. So that's a big problem with the continuous schedule of reinforcement. You don't want to have done all that work to operantly condition someone just to have that behavior extinguish. Fortunately, you don't have to stay with a continuous schedule of reinforcement. Yes, it should be used to establish the behavior, but then you can switch to a partial schedule of reinforcement. There are 4 partial schedules of reinforcement. And if you remember what I'm about to tell you, it will be easy to keep the partial schedules of reinforcement straight. When I say fixed, you think same. When I say variable, you think different or changing. When I say interval, you think time. And when I say ratio, you think number of responses. If you will keep this straight, you will keep the partial schedules of reinforcement straight. One of the partial schedules of reinforcement is called fixed interval. And fixed interval is when you reinforce the first correct response after the same amount of time. So let's think about that rat in the Skinner box. You've got that rat on a continuous schedule. Pushes the lever, gets fed. Pushes the lever, gets fed. Pushes the lever, gets fed. Now you switch over to a fixed interval schedule. Now the rat pushes the lever but doesn't get fed until a certain amount of time passes. So let's say your interval is 8 seconds. It does not matter what that rat does in those 8 seconds. The rat does not get reinforced until the first time he presses the lever, after 8 seconds is up. After 8 seconds is up, he presses the lever, then you start timing again. Now, because it's fixed and fixed is same, the next interval will be 8 seconds. It's got to be the same amount of time. Again, it doesn't matter what that rat does in those 8 seconds. The rat could continually press the bar, or the rat could go off and go to sleep. It doesn't matter. You're not concerned about what the rat's doing. You're concerned about time. And you don't reinforce until the first time the rat presses the lever after the time is up. So if our time is 8 seconds, 8 seconds is up, the rat presses that lever, then you start timing again. And again, it's 8 seconds. Now, rats are pretty savvy, and they sort of catch on to this after a few trials. So initially, you'll see an extinction burst. The rat starts really pressing the bar, but then the rat sort of catches on to, wait a minute, there's a certain amount of time before I get reinforced. I mean, rats and people have timing mechanisms in their head. You and I are good at sort of estimating 2 minutes or estimating 10 minutes. Well, rats are the same. They have a timing mechanism in their head. So what you'll see with rats is after several trials, they'll press the bar and get reinforced, and then they'll kind of hang back. It's kind of like, I got time. No use in like working hard. And then as it gets closer to what they think the time limit is, then they'll start testing out the bar. They'll start sort of pushing it slowly. And then if they feel like it's really should be time's up, they'll start pushing it faster. And then when they get reinforced, they hang back. We are just like rats. Think about a weekly quiz. Let's say in your biology class, you have a quiz every Friday. So getting the quiz done is your reinforcement. Do you immediately go home and start studying for next week's quiz? No, right? Saturday comes, I got a week. Sunday comes, I got most of a week. Monday, I got 5 days. But then maybe Wednesday night, you sort of start testing it out. You may, maybe I should read the chapter. Thursday, maybe I should start looking over my notes. Friday morning, you're just like that rat pressing that bar saying, hey, time limit's coming. You're studying hard, right? Then you take that quiz, and then you hang back. You're like, I got a whole week. So we are just like rats. Another partial schedule of reinforcement is variable interval, and that is where you reinforce the first correct response after a changing amount of time. So let's take that rat in the Skinner box. Got him on a continuous schedule, you're reinforcing every time he presses that lever, and then you switch to a variable interval. So now, after he gets reinforced, you start timing. So let's say the first interval is 5 seconds. It doesn't matter what that rat does during those 5 seconds. He does not get reinforced until the first time he presses that lever after the 5 seconds is up. Then he gets reinforced, and then you start timing again. So since it's variable, it can't be 5 seconds. It's got to be a different amount of time. So let's say 12 seconds. Again, it doesn't matter what that rat does in those 12 seconds. He doesn't get reinforced until the first time he presses the bar after 12 seconds is up. Then he gets reinforced, then you start timing again, and let's say 9 seconds this time. The important thing about variable is that it is unpredictable. You would not want to do 5, 10, 15, 20 because that gets predictable. You want it to be completely unpredictable. With variable interval, here rats don't kind of sit back because they can't predict when the next reinforcement would come. So what you see is they continue pressing the lever because they don't want to risk missing out. Instead of it being 12 seconds, maybe it's only 2 seconds. Well, if they waited 12 seconds, they would miss out on getting reinforcement. So they tend to continue to press the bar because they don't want to miss out on getting that reinforcement. That is why pop quizzes make sense. Pop quizzes are variable interval. You don't know when you're going to get a pop quiz. Could be today, could be the next day, could be 5 days from now. You don't know, but That better ensures that students will study as we go along, which is a better way of studying than with the fixed interval. Another example of variable interval is fishing, right? It doesn't matter how many times you put your pole in the water and take it out, right? And you might catch a fish after 5 minutes. Then you may not catch a fish for 2 hours. Then you may catch a fish 2 minutes later. So you're getting reinforced by catching fish, but you can't predict how much time it's going to be between catching fish. So that would be variable interval. Another partial schedule of reinforcement is fixed ratio. Now with ratio, we don't care about time. Here we only care about the number of responses. So with fixed ratio, you reinforce the first correct response after the same number of responses. So let's say you set your number of responses to be 11. So that rat has to press the lever 11 times before he's reinforced. After the 11th lever press, then he gets reinforced. Then you start counting again. Since it's fixed, it has to be the same. So again, the rat has to press the bar 11 times after the 11th bar press or lever press, then he gets reinforced. Then you start counting again. And again, it's 11 responses because it's fixed. I haven't been to Starbucks in a long time, but they used to have a program where if you bought 10 coffees, then you get one free. That's a fixed ratio. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to buy the coffees. It could take you a year, or you could buy them all in one day. You're not concerned about time. You're only concerned in responses. And here your responses would be buying the coffee. Now, what would happen if you bought 9 coffees and said, hey, I want my free one? They would look at you and say, no, you have to buy one more. After the 10th coffee, then you get reinforced with a free coffee. If you want to get in the habit of doing a particular behavior the same number of times every day, you can put yourself on a fixed ratio schedule. So let's say that you want to get in the habit of doing 50 sit-ups a day. Well, you've got to figure out what's reinforcing for you. So let's say watching something on Netflix. So you have to do 50 sit-ups before you can watch Netflix. If you do 49, you can't watch Netflix. You have to do 50. And then the next day, the same thing. You have to do 50 sit-ups before you can watch Netflix. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. It could take you 2 hours or 2 minutes. Doesn't matter. You're not concerned with time here. You're only concerned with responses. And the last partial schedule of reinforcement is variable ratio. So here you reinforce the first correct response after a changing number of responses. Again, you're not concerned with time here. You're only concerned with responses. So let's take that rat in the Skinner box. Let's say he has to press that lever 9 times before he gets reinforced. After the 9th lever press, then he gets reinforced. Then you start counting again. Let's say this time he has to press it 3 times. Again, it doesn't matter how long it takes him. After the 3rd lever press, he gets reinforced. Then you start counting again, let's say 7 responses this time. Again, since it's variable, it has to be different each time. And the important thing with variable is that it is unpredictable. You don't want the animal or the person to be able to predict how many responses it will take before they get reinforced. A really good example of this is slot machines. Slot machines are set on a variable ratio. Casinos know what they're doing because variable ratio is the most difficult to extinguish because it's unpredictable and it's based on our own responses. So people and animals think if I just do it one more time, then I'll get reinforced. I didn't get reinforced that time. Maybe it's the next time. I didn't get reinforced time. Okay, maybe the next time. Casinos know that this is the most difficult to extinguish. And it's unpredictable. Now, variable interval is also unpredictable, but they don't want to use variable interval because your responses are putting money in the slot machine, right? So they want you to put your money in. If it was variable interval, then all you have to do is sit there and go, oh, I wonder if the interval's 3 hours. You sit there doing nothing for 3 hours, and then you put a quarter in. Oh, okay, so you didn't get the jackpot. I wonder if the interval's 5 hours. Well, then you just sit there for 2 more hours. And then you put a quarter in and maybe you win the jackpot. You've spent 50 cents and you win the jackpot. Casinos do not want that. They want your money. Well, why don't they do fixed ratio? Because that depends on your responses, right? Well, no, because fixed ratio is predictable. All you got to do is sit there and watch some other sucker put their money in and count how many times they put the money in before they win the jackpot. Then you have some other sucker sit there and put money in until one before the jackpot. Then you push them off and you put your quarter in and you win the jackpot. You'll get killed, but you'll have a very good funeral because you won the jackpot. So casinos know what they're doing by using variable ratio. It's dependent on your own responses and it's unpredictable. And it's the most difficult to extinguish. People will play longer. They will get your money longer. Also, Facebook, Instagram, they are set on a variable ratio. Your responses are flipping through the screens. Oh, you may see something interesting after 2 flips. Oh, or maybe not. Maybe it's going to take 10 flips. And then you'll see something interesting after 2 more flips. They want you to stay on their sites as long as possible. That's their goal. And so if they set it up for a variable ratio, you are more likely to stay on their site longer. It's more difficult to extinguish because you keep thinking, oh, if I just look one more screen, then I'll see something interesting. They know what they're doing. So I have one more type of learning that I want to talk about, and that is observational learning. Sometimes observational learning is called social learning. And psychologists realize that sometimes we learn not by being reinforced, but simply by observing other people. Now, hopefully you had a chance to watch the video on Moodle of Bandura's classic study with the Bobo dolls. Yeah, I didn't call them Bobo dolls either, but I do remember playing with Bobo dolls. And you probably played with them too when you were a young kid. Bandura was interested in whether children learn aggressive behavior simply by watching an adult do aggressive behavior. And what he found is that the children who observed the video of the adult being aggressive with the Bobo doll were more likely to be aggressive themselves. Now, Bandura had 2 conditions. So, in one condition, he videotaped adults being very aggressive with a Bobo doll, sort of beating the heck out of the Bobo doll. And in the other condition, the adult was playing with the Bobo doll nicely. And after the children watched the video, Then they were put in a room with a Bobo doll and other toys. They could choose to play with the other toys. But what he found was that children who observed that adult being aggressive were more likely to be aggressive themselves with the Bobo doll than the children who watched the video of the adults playing nicely with the Bobo doll. Not only that, but they devised new ways of being aggressive with the Bobo doll. They started using guns. Guns were never used by the adult in the video, but they started using guns to beat up the Bobo doll. That little girl, she used a baby doll to beat up the Bobo doll. So they came up with whole new ways of being aggressive with the Bobo doll. Those children who saw the adult being aggressive with the Bobo doll, not those children who saw the video of the adult playing nicely with the Bobo doll. Now, Bandura also did another study. And in this study, all children watched the videos of adults being aggressive with the Bobo dolls. However, in one video, children saw adults being reinforced for being aggressive with the Bobo doll, for beating up the Bobo doll. In another video, other children saw the adults being punished for beating up the Bobo doll. And in a third condition, the children watched an adult neither being reinforced nor punished for beating up the Bobo doll. And again, children were put in a room with a Bobo doll to see what they would do. Well, those children who saw the video of the adults being reinforced for beating up the Bobo doll, beat up the Bobo doll. And Bandura said that they learned that that was appropriate behavior because, hey, the adult was reinforced for beating up the Bobo doll. So it must be appropriate behavior, so they beat up the Bobo doll. In the condition where children saw the adults being punished for beating up the Bobo doll, those children were less likely to beat up the Bobo doll or be aggressive with the Bobo doll. And Bandura said they learned that that was not appropriate behavior. And as for the condition of the adults who were neither reinforced nor punished for beating up the Bobo doll, the children who saw that video beat up the Bobo doll. And Bandura said they learned that they could get away with inappropriate behavior. If you have older siblings, you know this is true. I have an older brother and an older sister. And I know if I saw one of my older siblings get reinforced for something, I was more likely to do it. If I saw one of my older siblings get punished for doing something, nope, I was less likely to do it. And if I saw them do some behavior that may not have been the most appropriate behavior, but they were neither reinforced nor punished, I was more likely to try it because, hey, that looked like fun and they got away with it. So this translates to real life. Research since Bandura has shown that observational learning does translate to real life in many ways. We know that children who live in households where one parent abuses the other parent, those children are more likely to abuse their own partner when they're adults. Even if they come from good households, children who live in violent neighborhoods, like neighborhoods where there's gang activity, are more likely to grow up to be violent. I mean, think about it. If little kids see older kids who are gang members, and one of the gang members goes off and beats up a rival gang member, what happens when they come back to their own gang? They are reinforced for that behavior. They're told, oh man, that was awesome that you beat up this other person, right? The little kids are seeing that. And it's just like seeing the adult beat up the Bobo doll and getting reinforced. So they learn that that's appropriate behavior. It doesn't have to be violent behavior either. Let's say a little kid hears an adult tell a racist joke, and the people around the person laugh. Well, laughter's reinforcing. That child has just learned that it's appropriate to tell racist jokes. But also, it's not just bad behavior. Observational learning occurs with good behavior as well. Be aware that children are always watching. Even when you think they're not watching, they are watching. And they are learning from your behavior. So you have to be careful what your actions are teaching them. All right, that's it for this PowerPoint, and that is it for Chapter 5. I hope you're having a fantastic day.